This culture's perceived transgressive nature was ignited due to its search for pleasure-seeking behaviour through the combination of mass crowds, heavy bassline music, as well as the intoxication of illicit substances. This cultural movement gave the youth of the time an identity and reassured collectivism against the harsh political climate. This is rave culture. In the late 80s going through to the 90s, thousands gathered at warehouses, free parties and clubs across the country. They collectively provided a release of expression through a live for the weekend youth ideology. This video shall depict the origins of rave culture and then go on to discuss its sense of spirituality linked with the use of drugs, whilst outlining political enforcements that were introduced to try and control this culture. I shall then finally conclude with discussing the relevance of rave culture in today's society.
One of the great debates of our time is about how much of your money should be spent by the state and how much you should keep to spend on your family.
When Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister in 1979, she aimed to reduce the role of the state in the laissez-faire approach. This was a time of distinctive social change through the elimination of coal mines, disbanding of unions and entrance into the Falklands War, which would consequently affect sequential generations for many years to come and break ties that had previously enhanced unity. The free markets were introduced, which promoted a prominence of capitalism and decentralised much of government funding and shifted the ideology of society. The promotion of meritocracy was omitted, which outlined how despite social inequalities, anyone could achieve well in society if they worked hard enough. This meant that the attitudes of the country had shifted to promote the survival of the fittest way of life, which was exerted in Thatcher's speech stating that there is no such thing as society. The increasing disparities between the rich and the poor that were vividly evident alongside this individualistic ideology greatly affected youth, leaving them feeling frustrated and isolated. But the youth growing up in Thatcher's era would offer a subcultural release to conflict and oppose these rigid shackles that were controlling society at the time. The UK started to inherit rave culture from Chicago in the late 80s, where artists used the Roland TB-303 to create modulated bass lines under hard 4/4 beats, to pursue a distinctive sound never heard before named acid house. Acid rave parties then spread across Europe in exotic countries such as Ibiza, where artists including Danny Rampling and Paul Oakenfold honed in the acid house sound. They played it to the masses in the summer seasons in clubs such as Amnesia and Pacha, where an emphasis on authenticity was exerted and empowerment through both the individual and the collective. 1989 emerged as the second summer of love after a heatwave swept across the UK and rave culture was fully functional. The memorable time was compared to the infamous 1967 Summer of Love due to both of their focuses on collectiveness and a sense of positive energy transposed through the medium of music. This brought together all walks of life from different ethnic groups, classes, ages and cultural styles. The aim was to embrace all those who wanted to party through democratic inexclusiveness and cooperation. The aim was to try and juxtapose the political bearings that were controlling society at the time. The summers of 1989 and 1990 ignited a massive level of rave events, mainly focusing around the M32 Ring Road, in fields, warehouses and even airport hangars and other various locations for free parties. These illegal DIY events were set up using a variety of methods, including using secretive phone numbers that gave away locations, or by meeting at petrol stations and convoying into the depths of the countryside. Some of the most famous events of the late 80s and early 90s, drawing thousands of people, included Hacienda, developed by Mike Pickering and Graham Park, Helter Skelter, formed by Dave and Penny Pratley, as well as Shoon, developed by Danny Rampling, all offering a release of expression that would take the country by storm. One central component to the nature of spirituality within rave culture is the use of illegal drugs. The most common drug taken during the early 90s and times of rave growth was MDMA, or sometimes known as E or ecstasy, which came in the form of small pills with differentiating logos. It was popularised in the 1980s in all-night Ibiza parties, but was seen transported to the UK through bands such as the Stone Roses and the Happy Mondays. Matthew Collin, in his book Altered State, notes how these started off at costing around £20 per pop, that could leave you enjoying a sense of euphoria for hours to come. Ecstasy is associated with the body being possessed in a trance-like state, where it undertakes a sense of mystic self-transcendence. Artaud in 1958 claimed that being in this trance-like state is like being possessed by another. This sense of escapism represented the live-for-the-now attitude of many of the young at the time, crossing all social boundaries. The effects associated with MDMA use include feelings of mental stimulation, emotional warmth, and empathy towards others. The use of these illicit substances highlights the transgressive nature of the subculture, as the user understands the risks and illegality of the activities undertaken, but searches for the hedonistic pleasure that provides a sense of release like no other. The smiley face associated with the acid house movement was created by Harvey in 1963 and then reintroduced by Danny Rampling at his club named Shoon. This logo encompasses the values of rave culture, with the smiley displaying bliss and exhilaration, whilst also signifying a pill-like shape associated with the symptoms of MDMA use. This went on to become mass-produced on t-shirts and badges, signifying the universal emblem of the movement. Presty determined that the origins of rave held the perfect form of consumption, as it had no content or context, but placed the focus on hedonism of the body over rationality within the mind, offering youth the chance to gain a united collectivism in a distinctive social space. Through drug use, the dance floor acts as a disillusion of the ego. Its very irrationality concerned the state, as they wished to control those bodies so that they did not digress from their ideology. Simon Reynolds claims that later genres of music in the mid-90s, such as hardcore, drum and bass and jungle, reflected some of the drugs that were used. Hardcore or darkcore mirrored the cheery tunes of before and can be seen to represent the effects of sustained ecstasy, marijuana and amphetamine use, causing increased modes of depression and hallucinations. The dark point saw a removal of the smiley face and a focus on the nihilistic elements that made the body seem void and numb. Simon Reynolds states that it represented a time of autistic self-absorption, or when things got bad. The link with drugs in rave culture has led Matthew Collin and other 1990s writers to label the youth of the time as the chemical generation. The collective group held a distinctive synergistic relationship with drugs, living for the weekend, but then consequently paying for it with a midweek come-down. The government implemented legislation as well as enforcement groups to take control of the movement. The police established the Acid House Rapid Deployment Force in 1990, involving 250 officers and costing around £20,000 every Saturday night. The Criminal Justice and Public Order Act that was implemented under John Major's Conservative government in 1994 tried to apprehend the moral panic concerning drug use tied with rave culture. They tried to disband the collective events that were making youth a peaceful but cohesive force. The concern was only heightened by the tabloid press, exposing rave events and linking deaths to MDMA use, such as 18-year-old Leah Betts. The bill stopped those of a crowd over 100 and further down the line 20 people gathering to listen to loud amplified music that caused distress. This was introduced by Michael Howard to monitor youth groups so that they did not interrupt with the apparent peaceful high culture of the time. The music targeted by the bill was characterised by the emission of a succession of repetitive beats and aimed to impose boundaries on what individuals at the time could partake in.
Among the bill's most controversial proposals are measures which would change a suspect's right to silence. A new offence of aggravated trespass would give police new powers over raves and New Age travellers and criminalise the activities of campaigners against blood sports.
Members of the huge techno sound system Spiral Tribe believed that the police reaction was about fear, as youth were cooperating to display a voice through culture and politics that was demanding to be heard. Rave culture had taken on many of the New Age spiritual relationships experienced by those at free festivals in the 70s and 80s. Since rave culture transferred from areas such as Goa and Australia to areas of the West and the UK, it brought with it an increased sense of spirituality. Its visible ideals included being a free-thinking new romantic person to idealise a welcoming utopian culture. This was perhaps best demonstrated at the week-long Castle Morton Free Festival in 1992, which saw a culmination of UK sound systems and over 20,000 New Age travellers and ravers unifying together. It was the biggest free party on record and a major contribution to the 1994 Criminal Justice Act. Simon Reynolds states that from the activities of a raver, it may feel like a religious experience, but from the views of the outsider, it represents an evil cult. This demonstrates how rave emits a matrix of different lifestyles regarding participants and onlookers. Raves can represent a religious experience through the DJ signifying as the priest, whilst the turntables depicting the altar. The priest holds the task of responding to the emotions of the crowd and guiding them into a tunnel of euphoria through their selected hymns. Overall, this video has demonstrated the ways in which rave culture had emerged in the late 80s and early 90s due to a political climate that imposed an ideology of individualism through the neoliberal state. Rave has been analysed as a fascinating culture due to its bordering transgressive nature, alongside values which instill an egalitarian outlook to the world and promote collectedness through group hedonistic behaviours. The use of drugs have been observed as creating a spiritual trance for those involved, which can be interpreted as providing a somewhat religious experience for many. Although the scale of rave culture has been suppressed, some cities such as Manchester and Bristol have kept its spirit alive in clubs such as the Coach and Warehouse Project. Although strict security and capitalistic foundations means it may not hold as a distinctive separation from the rest of society like the origins of rave. Free parties still hold an important expression for youth, such as the 2015 Bristol New Year's Eve party, which is an example that shows the longitudinal relevance of rave culture's core values. I believe that the longevity of the movement lies in its consensus of accepting anyone into it and offering a unique form of escapism, which is again becoming increasingly relevant due to recent political austerity and a youth lacking a distinctive identity. Rave culture is therefore one of the most intriguing subcultures through its unique values of togetherness and hedonism, and although legislation has been put in place to stop its collectiveness more than 20 years ago, some youth groups are still perpetuating its positivity in society today.